Next question is from. It sounds like this is an extension, not off of the same verse, but a different. I think it's the same guy though, Matt. It says, Steve, my kids are in public school, and I am having a problem with what they are being taught for sexual education. The parents can sign a waiver, but then it seems like they punish the kids by making them do another assignment that is more work than just sitting through the class. What do you say to Christians in the public schools regarding to this issue?
Well, if my kids were in the public schools and they were going through the public school sex education program, I would be on top of that. Apparently, like you are, and there would be things I would not want a school teacher, especially with the curriculum that can be thrown around. I don't know what the curriculum is that's actually being taught in our public schools. I do know what is being encouraged by Washington State to be taught, and it has to do with obviously there's kind of a moral ambiguity there, and then there's a promotion of LGBTQ, and so that is not something I want somebody telling my kid. I'm not interested in that, and so I would be opting out of that also. I think that we have lots of good public school teachers in our area. In fact, I know a lot of public school teachers who are believers. But you're not going to get that in every single instance. So yeah, I would be on top of that. And if the kids are having to do more homework because of that whole thing, that's a teaching moment for my kids. The fact that I stand up for righteousness and the fact that I live on the basis of principle doesn't mean that everybody's going to agree with me, and it doesn't mean that everybody is going to pat me on the back or give me a pass because I'm taking a principled stand. In fact, the Bible talks about the fact that we've spent enough of our past lifetime in doing the will of the Gentiles, and in the passage where it says that, it talks about, in regard to these, they think it's strange that you do not run with them in the same flood of dissipation, speaking evil of you. And so the fact that I take a principled stand and I actually allow the Lord to change my life does not mean that everybody's going to go, wow, man of honor, man of integrity. In fact, many times it means that I'm going to get some persecution that comes along with that. And so that would be one of the things that I would be talking to the kid about. You're going to have this kind of stuff happens everywhere, and so you take principled stands on things, and it makes people mad. And whether you're in the workplace or whether you're in a relationship, whether you have a friendship, whether you're in school, sometimes that can come back and bite you. And we have to be able to make those kinds of stands no matter what. We want our lives to be something that honors the Lord, and so. There's been a number of times in my life where I've had to make stands in areas. Thought I was going to lose my job. Thought I was going to lose friendships. I have lost friendships over principled stands. I've lost people from my church over principled stands, and that's the way that it goes. That's where we live. We need to be people who are walking with Christ and willing to do what Jesus wants over the opinion of men. In fact, Paul in one letter said that if you seek to please men, you're no longer the servant of Christ. And so in every instance that I've had where it was a situation like that, where my kid is getting punished, I believe, or getting hassled because he's making a stand, that's something that they need to know is going to happen, and they need to understand that we don't compromise just because we're not everybody's favorite because of the stands that we make. The other thing that I found from that, and this is just over a lifetime of experience with this stuff, is every time I've made stands like that, people have gotten really ticked off at me. And so, like I said, I've had situations where I thought I was going to lose a job because I made stands about certain issues. And what ends up happening, what's ended up happening in a lot of those situations, specifically with the situation I'm talking about with my job, my boss trusted me after I made actually I made a couple of different stands with the guy. And the guy trusted me, knew that I was always, that I was going to do the right thing. He didn't think I was perfect or anything, but he knew I was going to do the right thing and that he could trust me. In fact, he was a guy that had real problems with pastors in other arenas. And he let me know, and he let other people know that he was the one guy that he trusted. And he knew that because I would stand up to him. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing, and that's what God wants to see from this. Mm-hmm. And it didn't happen every single time, but there were times when it was just awesome. God just used it, and so whether He uses it or not, I still have a standard, and God can take care of that whole thing. In the end, your kids get more homework. They should be getting A's on the homework. This is what I tell my kids. You need to make sure that you do above and beyond what the teacher tells you to do in that situation. Get an A plus on the homework, and then when you hand it out, kind of give them a smile and go, "I know what you're doing."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're allowed to do stuff like that, and you can expect a reward from Christ for that. He's going to pass it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this idea there too. It's like speaking truth in love, as you were saying, when it had nothing to do when we weren't talking specifically about like maybe talking to the school per se, but just in general. Almost every time I'm out talking to people about Jesus that they don't know Jesus, I'm very clear about what I agree with and what I don't agree with. And they can sense that you love them. They can sense, because we do. Hopefully we have love in us, and we say it, but it is truth, and it's still hard stuff. And there will be these moments where they trust you because, you're willing to tell them the truth.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because obviously when I'm making those stands with the people who are around me, I wasn't yelling at my boss. I was, he just put me in a position where I was, basically he was trying to put me in a position that was not good.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll just tell you the story. What was happening was he had a problem with talking about people behind their back, and a guy didn't show up to work, and he just starts ripping on the guy to me, and I told him, you know what, I don't want to hear this. And he kept on, and finally I just named my boss. I'm not going to tell you what his name was, but I just said, so and so, you know what? When you do this kind of stuff, I wonder what you do when I'm not around. And I go, I'm not talking to you about him. I'm not going to do it anymore. You say that you're a believer, and you need to act like one. And that guy always knew that I had his back, and I really thought that I was, there was a likelihood I was going to lose my job at that point. And he just got quiet, and he was mad, and he got quiet, and we finished out the day. And then next day he comes up, and he's all my pal, And so it's those kinds of things, and so. You don't need to be a jerk about things. You just need to make a stand. And one of the things that you have with public school teachers, in my case, this guy was somebody that was going to church and saying that he was a Christian. Okay. But one of the things that you have with public school teachers is a lot of these people are not believers, and they don't understand why you're making the stands that you are making, and they have a problem with it because they don't know Jesus. And so, it's just like you just keep that in mind. And so if I was making that kind of stand with a teacher, I'd go, you know what? We have standards in my home. We have certain morals, and I want my kids to be taught those things, and I don't want them to be those positions to be undercut by the school system. And you have stuff in your curriculum that's going to undercut that. I understand that you think that that's okay, but I don't, and so I don't want to do it. And love you, but no, I don't want to do that. And so you just make those things clear.